Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished entrepreneur from New York, USA, Erin Hollon. Erin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. Erin is a crystal jewelry designer and founder of Ivy+Light. She's a crystal and Reiki healer. She's a life coach and she's a wellness educator. So, Erin, you seem to have done so many different things. Tell me about your amazing journey and also your learnings from some major struggles with health that took you on the path of natural healing.
Sure. Yeah, I think I would imagine that many of the people that you've spoken to have created a business out of a personal struggle. I feel like that comes up over and over again in the people that I talk to and the people that I coach. And it's great to have that silver lining to be able to come through a difficulty and then share that with other people.
Correct.
So my personal history is being fairly sickly all the way through childhood and into adulthood, having a lot of issues, asthma, digestive issues, issues with low energy, gaining weight, losing weight, all of these things. And nobody knew what it was. And I took a bunch of medications and I spent a bunch of time with doctors, and I never felt healthy. In college, I was able to correct a lot of that by changing my diet, by eating whole foods, by taking out certain foods that my body doesn't digest well. But later into my mid-20s, I started to have the same feeling of really low energy. And now what I would call anxiety depression, although I didn't know that term, I didn't understand that term then, but I just kept feeling sicker and sicker and sicker, and finally got diagnosed with hypothyroidism. And through that journey, they put me on medication. I did not want to be on medication. That's not a solution. It's just kind of a management, for the rest of your life, potentially. I wanted to be able to come off of that. And so I was trying all of these different natural supplements, essential oils, herbal things, everything I could think of. And I was still not feeling better. And I finally Googled, weirdest natural ways to help hypothyroidism or something like that. And came up with aquamarine with a crystal. And so I wrapped a crystal so I could wear it on my neck. And every day when I would go to work, if I got stressed out at work, I would put my hand over the necklace and I would say, this is not more important than my health. This is not more important than my health. And I would walk myself back from that, that stress, that anxiety. And over time of wearing the crystal, of repeating the affirmation, of trying to manage my stress, which was causing a lot of my issues, I started to feel better. And I felt better and better and better. And I found some essential oils that were specifically for hormone balance as well, added that to my regimen. And before I knew it, I was off the medication. I was feeling more healthy. My hair started filling back in, and it started falling out when I was really sick. And I just finally started to feel like I knew I was supposed to feel. I had more energy. I had my mental clarity came back. And through this journey, it was so much research online, reading books, not sure who to trust, not sure which of these places that I was finding information were actually accurate, right? And it felt like a part-time job, trying to heal myself while working full-time. And so my passion went from, I started a jewelry business in order to spend less time at my physical job. I was a manager for Trader Joe's, which is a grocery store chain in New York. So I wanted to do less physical labor, more creative work. But as I was going through this health journey, I started, instead of just making jewelry, focusing on crystal healing jewelry, focusing on the healing benefits of each gemstone and creating combinations for people so I could help not just myself, but someone else who might have a digestive issue or might have an anxiety disorder or might just want more clarity or to bring in abundance into their life. And so I started my jewelry business, which is Lula May Design first, and really focused on helping people heal through crystals. Then over time, I wanted to branch out more. I started to feel boxed in. There's so many other healing methods. So Ivy+Light came from my desire to bring as many different healing methods together in one spot on the internet as possible, so that I could educate people a little bit on many healing methods, and then they could choose which ones to dive into more.
Fascinating. Um, so let's first talk about Ivy+Light, and then we'll come to Lula May Design. Um, what are you doing in Ivy+Light, and how are you helping to develop or define a wellness community?
So I think the reason I've used the term community, the reason that word is so important to me is because I felt in the health and wellness world, there was a tendency to gain a lot of knowledge. And once you had that knowledge, to feel that you were better than or different than other people in the world who didn't have that knowledge. And I didn't want to enter into this world and create a niche of people who felt other than the rest of the world. I want everyone who engages with Ivy+Light to feel welcome, to feel that it doesn't matter how much they know. They could know nothing, they could know a lot, and they're equally welcome in this space. And that the way that I teach anything is to start from the beginning, explain the science, explain the tradition, and then help people to use their own intuition to put together their own healing methods, their own regimen that works for them. So it's empowering, it's welcoming, and it's continual, so that I'm always adding more things to Ivy+Light, to the Facebook group, to my YouTube channel, so that they can live with Ivy+Light for years and years, and it really feels like they're continuing to be educated on new subjects over time.
Fascinating. And for my viewers and listeners, tell me a little bit about crystal and Reiki healing.
So I actually became a Reiki healer because of the crystal jewelry.
Okay.
As I was making my jewelry, I understood intuitively and then learned more over time. But of course, my own energy when I'm creating that piece is going to affect the energy of that piece. So if I'm feeling stressed as I'm creating this necklace, it's going to go into my creation. And especially because crystals contain and carry information, I don't want to send anything negative to my customer. So I found somebody who taught Reiki, and I asked her, so if I learned Reiki and I Reiki infuse these crystals, that would be a great way to really make sure that I'm giving the best energy to each piece.
Correct.
And she confirmed that was true. So I became a Reiki 1 and then a Reiki 2 practitioner, so that I could give the best experience, the best healing power with each piece of jewelry. So I've always approached my Reiki from the crystals, sending them to people, rather than doing in person or distance attunements. It's really all through the crystal jewelry, so they're getting the benefit of both of those healing methods.
Fascinating. And then you also have brought in a new piece, which is the essential oils.
Yes.
How do the oils play a role in healing?
So I like to call crystals and essential oils the wow and the pow.
Okay.
So essential oils interact with your body very quickly, very immediately. If you smell, peppermint oil, your eyes get wide open, you can breathe more easily, your mental focus is a little bit clearer. That the aromas going into your brain through the limbic system has a very fast acting effect. So that's the kind of pow. And then the crystals, because they have such a stable vibration, as you're wearing them over time, they're continually sending that vibration throughout your body. So that's the wow. You think at the end of a day, oh, I really do feel different because I wore that crystal. So combining those two together, you can have immediate and then longer lasting benefits, because of course the essential oil aromas, are processed through your body and leave very quickly. And I actually started teaching them together because crystals became more and more popular within the aromatherapy community that I'm in, but in the United States specifically, it's very tied to Western Christian tradition, the anointing oils of the Bible. So they were more reluctant to use crystals. Then they started just adding them into their essential oil roller bottles like this, because they're pretty, not realizing that a lot of gemstones have actually arsenic or lead or copper or things you don't want to absorb into all of your cells. So I started educating on it more to help make sure that people were being safe when they were combining these minerals with these essential oils and then slathering it all over their body. So I teach people how to use them both safely and powerfully, so that you get both benefits, that immediate and that long-lasting benefit.
And if you were to look at, all the people you may have worked with, what are some of the common kind of ailments, if I can use the term, have you addressed using oils, Reiki, and crystals?
I have found, I think partly because the journey I come from is with hypothyroid. So I've worked with a lot of people with thyroid issues. Is also becoming more and more common, more common for people to have them and also for it to be diagnosed. But beyond that, really anxiety, stress relief, depression, it feels like that's running rampant through society right now. And I think over the past couple of years, especially when things seem to be too much, just overwhelm, lack of clarity. I do a lot of work helping people to use these methods and then some affirmation, some meditation to disconnect from the stress of the day, to recenter yourself, to find everything is okay in this moment. And for this moment, I am safe. And for the next moment, I am safe. So a lot of that connection between stress, anxiety, and other emotional issues and their physical, however they manifest physically.
Very interesting. So again, for my viewers and listeners, a lot of people know that crystals are very important source of healing. How does one determine which is the right crystal for a person?
So if I'm starting out with someone who doesn't know much about this at all, I will say there's 3 things that you can do. The first, the simplest thing is to get a basic understanding of the chakra system, right? So if you can understand that there, for different parts of the body, physical, mental, emotional body, there are different colors, different minerals, different herbs, different crystals that are best for that. And you can know, okay, so if I'm having an issue with my liver or gallbladder, that's my solar plexus, then that would be a yellow crystal. And if you understand kind of the rainbow of color that lays on top of the chakra system, then you can say, okay, well, I know I'm having an emotional problem. I feel like I'm dealing with heartache. Well, then I can use a green or a pink crystal. So that becomes a visual way for people to understand. The second would be research. Don't be afraid to buy a crystal book and read about all of the traditional methods, that crystals have been used for. Flip to the back, find your issue you're having, and then look at all of the crystals that they recommend. And the third is intuition. If you've got all of the pink crystals to choose from and you go to a store or you look at photos online, which one jumps out at you? That's the one that is resonating with you and therefore the one to use.
And the fourth one is to reach out to Erin Hollon. But again, you can tell us, what is the process you follow?
Yes.
If someone reaches out to you for healing.
So I usually will start with having them fill out a questionnaire, which when they're answering these questions, sometimes they think this has nothing to do with what I need help with. But I ask them general questions, starting from childhood, how they felt as a child, how they feel now, emotional issues they may have, physical goals they have, physical ailments they're dealing with, and get kind of a broad information about their life rather than just what they think is the problem. And from there, I'll use kind of the Rolodex of all of the crystals and essential oils in my head, right, that I have from all of my years of research, plus a lot of intuition from the words they're choosing to use. And then what does that immediately bring to mind in terms of what crystals for them? Then very often I will pair together multiple crystals so that it might be, they think they're just stressed out, but I can tell that it's more of a mental overthinking stress. So I'll do a grounding crystal plus mental overthinking crystal plus something to pull them back into their heart energy. And that combination together will be more beneficial than just picking the stress crystal.
Interesting. Let's now move to Lula May Design, which is for crystal jewelry and what you started before you got into Ivy+Light.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about Lula May Design.
So the way that I make each piece is very organic because I was a self-taught wire wrapper. I started wire wrapping crystals because I wanted to wear them to help myself. So over time, instead of learning a lot of these traditional techniques that you might have seen since the 70s, it was really popular back then, it's definitely a more free flow method that I use. And it's very much picking up a stone, like say this stone, I'm working on a collection right now, this peach moonstone. And as I'm wire wrapping, literally asking the crystal, how would you like to be wrapped?
Okay.
so that I'm interacting with the stone and not forcing it into some preconceived notion of what I think this piece should look like. And in that allows me the ability to stay in creative energy and joyful energy and not have any stress or critical thinking going on when I'm making the piece. And from there, I use all of the crystal combination information that I was just sharing to come up with different pieces. And I like to do a collection at a time. So my next one is the empowerment collection.
Okay.
Focusing on that healing benefit. And from there, what are all of the crystals that go into that? And then the beauty of the collection comes from the healing element rather than just from, okay, it's fall, so we need to do a fall collection, right? So the healing is always the center of what I'm doing with the jewelry design, just like with Ivy+Light.
Fabulous. And you just showed me a pink stone or a pink crystal. When you talk about healing, is this pink crystal or stone something that is pre-assigned to a potential customer, saying that this is being designed for them because of this particular kind of a challenge they're facing?
It can be. I do a lot of custom work. People reach out to me and they express what it is that they are working through, and then I will create a specific piece for them. And I love to do that because then I get to use intuition, creativity, and my experience all together. When I'm creating the collections, it's for a customer that may not exist, but I know they're out there somewhere. And I will create a piece that's for something very specific. Then in the description that I write, I will say, this is for you if, and I will give a very good description of what the crystal piece is for. And also an affirmation. Every piece I create an affirmation for it. So when they put on the necklace, they can repeat that affirmation. Therefore, they themselves are getting into that same energy space as the crystals are creating as well.
Amazing. And would you say that, crystal jewelry from Lula May Design is jewelry that heals?
Absolutely. It is fashioned to heal, right? It is, the purpose of it is healing. And then the beauty of it is almost secondary in my mind.
Very interesting. So I have time for a few more questions. So let me move to your journey as a life coach. Tell me about the work you do as a coach. So
as a coach, will have somebody reach out to me and say, okay, here's a goal that I'm focused on. And I'm feeling blocked. I'm not sure what the next step is. My personal gifting, I believe that I have as a coach, is to help someone find clarity. And so my favorite thing to do is to start with a clarity session where we'll get together. I'll give them, it's a 2-hour block. I'll give them time to get out all of the gunk. Why do they feel overwhelmed? What are they trying to get to? What seems to be stopping them? And from there, it's really just me pulling out from them the answers that they already have, but just haven't come to the surface. Okay, so tell me more about why you are feeling fear about moving forward. Is it fear of failure or fear of success? What are some times in your past where this same feeling has occurred? And just walking them through what's happening internally instead of giving them advice on this is how I would do it. Because I think everyone has the specific answers for their own life. It's just very hard to hear our own answers, that small voice inside when we feel overwhelmed by everything that's coming in from the outside of us. And so another thing I tell people is I'm very definitely not a therapist, which I think I realized very quickly when I started life coaching people. There's a moment where sometimes people need someone to hear all of the bad stuff that's happening and sit with them in that. And that's very much not my gifting. My gifting is the person who's ready to leave that behind and move forward. And I can help them hold space for that future version of themselves that is just waiting to develop. So it's very much a forward thinking. If it's time for motion, if it's time for motivation, determination, clarity, I'm your person. I can help keep you on that path.
Fascinating. And one more question relating to coaching. How has your background, of your own journey, how has that supported your own coaching philosophy?
That's interesting. So my background is as an artist and a performer. I'm actually a flautist by training. That's what my college degree was in. And so through that time of studying music, I had many, many teachers and I taught many. Wow. So I was in that process with people of this is where I want to go in my flute career, and this is where I am. And there are definite steps you could take to move forward, and coaching people and encouraging them and holding them accountable, whether they did their homework or not. And so as I became, then I started managing retail stores and managed up to 300 people at a time. And it's very similar. They, even if they're not going to grow with the company, they're growing as a person. Many people from 18 to 25 working for me, they're developing their personal life skills. And it's my job to help them decide, this is where I want to go. And are the decisions that I'm making every day getting me there? Is there knowledge I need? Is there practice that I need to become better? So as I became a life coach, it felt very natural and very much like what I'd already been doing. Yep. I was just giving it a name.
Fascinating. And, I'm delighted to learn that you play the flute. I play the Indian flute, the bamboo.
Oh, wow.
So, but that's fantastic. And my last question to you, Erin, and this is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your own amazing journey and your own learnings, what would you say are 3 lessons you would want our viewers and listeners to take away from your own life story and from our conversation?
I would say there is always an answer.
Yeah.
Even when you feel overwhelmed or feel lost, there is a way out.
Yeah.
And it may just be, 5 minutes down the road. So don't give up.
Yeah.
Keep looking for your answer. And then I would say you are your own healer. Yeah. It's all ultimately our responsibility to take care of ourselves. And we have medical professionals, and we have life coaches, and we have wellness practitioners who can help us. But ultimately, once they teach you what they have to teach you, you have to put it into practice. And because you have to do that, that means you also have that power. And the third thing I would say is just be open, be welcoming, and pull as many people into your world as you can, because you'll learn so much from them. Yeah. And the more that we share what we know and we learn from others, the better we can make the world.
Wonderful. And on that note, Erin, and your 3 wonderful lessons, there is always an answer to the problems. And as they say, this too shall pass. You are your own healer, and be open, be welcoming, because there is so much to learn from others. Thank you so much for speaking to me about your own amazing journey. Thank you for sharing with me your incredible personal story. Thank you also for telling me about the flute, which, I resonate with very, very well. Thank you for talking to me about Ivy+Light, about Lula May Design. And once again, thank you for speaking to me, and good luck.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website, www.tbcy.in, to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.